Imagine you're a Catholic priest. You've dedicated your life to the traditional Mass, the sacraments, and the formation of hundreds of seminarians around the world. One day, an official statement from the Holy See warns you, if your superiors proceed with the ordinations scheduled for July 1st, you and they will be automatically excommunicated. The signature on that declaration is that of Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, prefect of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. The man who, as a young priest, published a book with scenes of explicit eroticism. The man who signed Fiducia Supplicans, the document that Bishop Schneider just yesterday called a mockery of common sense. And while that declaration is circulating in ecclesiastical chancelleries, 20,000 Catholics will set out from Paris to Chartres, the highest number ever in the history of the traditionalist pilgrimage. It's not a coordinated response. It's not organized from above. It's the sensus fidelium marching forward. And the question those 20,000 pilgrims are asking is just one. Who, really, is the schismatic? By the end of this video, you'll understand why July 1st, 2026 could be one of the most pivotal dates in the history of the contemporary Church, and why the answer to that question isn't as simple as the Vatican would have you believe. Here's what we know for sure. On May 13, 2026, Cardinal Fernandez issued an official statement on the Priestly Society of St. Pius X. The text is lapidary. The episcopal ordinations announced by the fraternity for July 1st in Écône, Switzerland, do not have the corresponding papal mandate. And so, quoting John Paul II, this act constitutes a schismatic act, and formal adherence to the schism entails excommunication established by church law. The fraternity, for its part, did not stop. The Superior General, Father David Pagliarani, had already announced the decision on February 2, 2026. 5 new bishops will be ordained on July 1st in Écône. The consecrators will be Bishops Bernard Fellet and Alfonso de Galarreta. Let's understand who these 2 bishops are and why their names completely change the meaning of this story. Fellet and de Galarreta are not just any names. They were among the 4 priests whom Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre consecrated bishops on June 30th, 1988, again in Écône, without a papal mandate, on the exact same charge of schismatic action. The next day, the Congregation for Bishops declared their excommunication latae sententiae. That excommunication lasted 21 years. On January 21, 2009, Pope Benedict XVI revoked it. Today, in 2026, the same bishops excommunicated in 1988 and rehabilitated in 2009 prepare to consecrate 5 new bishops, again facing the exact same threat. The cycle repeats itself with almost theatrical precision, and the question no one dares ask is, will the history of 1988 repeat itself, or will it be different this time? Before answering, we need to understand who signed this statement. Cardinal Fernandez is not just anyone. He wrote his doctoral thesis on Amoris Laetitia before the document even existed, as if the text were already written and theology simply had to adapt. He signed Fiducia Supplicans. He presided over the synod process, which Bishop Schneider just yesterday called collaboration with lobbyists in a revolt against God. This is the man who today defines who is schismatic and who is not. There's a technical element that shouldn't be underestimated. The threatened excommunication is latae sententiae. It occurs automatically the moment the act is committed, without the need for any trial, sentence, or formal notification. By the time the bishops lay hands on the 5 priests in Écône on July the 1st, the excommunication will already be effective for the consecrators, for the consecrated, and for anyone who formally cooperated in the act. This is the mechanism that John Paul II had foreseen in 1988, and which the Holy See is reactivating today with the exact same formula. Why did Lefebvre do that in 1988, defying Rome? The answer is well documented. In a letter to Cardinal Ratzinger, written a few weeks before the consecrations, Lefebvre wrote that without bishops, the society would survive for a generation at most, and that the crisis in transmitting the faith to young people made it impossible to wait for an agreement that never came. The same argument Don Pagliarani uses today in 2026, word for word. The real story begins here. As the Vatican issued its declaration, 20,000 pilgrims gathered in Paris, the highest number ever recorded in the history of the Chartres pilgrimage. 14,000 people signed up on the first day of registration alone. That's not a number, it's a statement. The pilgrimage will depart on May 23rd and arrive in Chartres on Monday 25th. The final Mass will be celebrated by Cardinal Raymond Burke, a canonist and former prefect of the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura, and one of the most authoritative critical voices of traditional Catholicism. Among the concelebrants was Monsignor Patrick Chauvet, former rector of Notre-Dame de Paris. The Chartres pilgrimage is not organized by the FSSPX. Faithful from all walks of life participate: families, young people, diocesan priests, and religious. The fact that 20,000 people chose this precise moment to march toward the oldest Marian cathedral in France is no coincidence. It's a response. Uncoordinated, not imposed from above. The grassroots march. It is worth remembering what Benedict XV said when he revoked Lefebvre's excommunication in 2009. In his March 10th letter to bishops around the world, he wrote that the Lefebvre case had highlighted a serious crisis in the Church, and that ignoring it would be equivalent to turning one's back on a part of the ecclesial community. The greatest theologian of the 20th century, Joseph Ratzinger, implicitly acknowledged that the problem was real, that canonical punishment had solved nothing, that the way was dialogue, not excommunication. Benedict XVI knew how to read history. The question is whether his successor has the same ability, and it is here that history reveals its true nature. On the one hand, a fraternity that celebrates the Mass of all time, trains priests, administers sacraments to hundreds of thousands of faithful throughout the world, and which asks only to be able to ordain bishops to ensure its pastoral continuity. On the other, a dicastery that signed fiducia supplicans, that presides over a synodal process denounced as global ideological propaganda by several independent episcopal voices, and that now threatens with excommunication anyone who celebrates the Mass of Pius V. The Code of Canon Law defines schism as the refusal to submit to the Supreme Pontiff. But theology and history teach that juridical form alone is not enough to define a real schism. The Arian bishops were in full communion with the emperor. The popes of the Avignon period were legally recognized. Form without substance has already deceived the Church more than once. The question traditionalists have been asking for months is this: where is the real rupture? In the fraternity that celebrates the Mass of all time and ordains bishops, or in the systematic process, documented, denounced, quantified, of dismantling Catholic doctrine? And today, this question weighs more heavily than any other, and every Catholic must face it. Who is the schismatic? The honest answer is that it's not up to us to judge hearts. That's up to God. But every Catholic can look at the fruits. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, Amen. God bless you.